The breaking point. The crystalline spires of Nova Centauri glittered like frozen lightning against the violet sky. Within the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Confederation, Supreme Counselor Zixtal watched with mounting unease as the human delegation approached the central podium. Their lead representative, Dr. Sarah Chen, moved with the fluid grace that centuries of low-gravity adaptation had given her species. But there was something different in her bearing today, something that made the fine scales along Zixtal's neck bristle. Honored members of the Confederation, Dr. Chen began, her voice carrying through the vast chamber without technological assistance, another of those subtle human capabilities that had always unsettled him. For 300 years, humanity has been part of this grand experiment in galactic cooperation. Today, we come before you to declare that experiment a failure. The chamber erupted in overlapping frequencies of protest and alarm. Zixtal raised all four hands for silence, his ceremonial robes shimmering with embedded quantum particles. Ambassador Chen, surely such dramatic statements are unnecessary. If Earth has specific grievances, Earth. Chen's laugh held no warmth. You still think this is about Earth? She gestured to the holographic display materializing around her. Let me show you what this is really about. The display expanded, showing thousands of points of light scattered throughout the galaxy. Each point pulsed with a subtle blue glow that Zixtal had never seen before. These, Chen continued, are what we call ghost colonies. Settlements that your sensors cannot detect, your ships cannot find, and your maps do not show. We have been expanding, Counselor, not at the painfully slow rate you permitted, but at the pace we chose. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Zixtal felt his secondary heart begin to race. Impossible. Our monitoring systems are based on technology we allowed you to think was beyond our capabilities. Chen's smile was razor-sharp. Did you never wonder why humans seemed so content with the technological scraps you offered? Why we never complained about your superior scanning systems? We've been invisible, Counselor, by choice. From the Arcturian section, Ambassador Kvex rose on his gravity nullifiers. This is an outrage, a violation of every treaty. Treaties. Chen's voice cut through the chamber like a plasma blade. Let's talk about treaties, about how the Confederation has systematically restricted human expansion while granting vast territories to younger species, about how you've placed embargo after embargo on human goods while flooding our markets with your products, about how you've labeled every significant human breakthrough as potentially destabilizing, while freely sharing similar advances among yourselves. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we adapted. We learned. We built our own networks, our own supply chains, our own civilization, parallel to yours but separate from it. And now we're done pretending. Zixtal felt the situation spiraling out of control. Whatever your grievances, surely we can negotiate. Negotiate. Chen's expression hardened. No, Counselor. The time for negotiations ended when your last peacekeeping fleet tried to establish a permanent presence in the Sol system. We let them come, of course. Let them think they were enforcing your will. But now, she activated another holographic display, showing the fleet in question. As the assembly watched, every Confederation ship simultaneously went dark, their systems shutting down in perfect synchronization. Your fleet is unharmed, Chen assured them, though her tone suggested this was more threat than comfort. They're simply experiencing the effects of what we call quantum field manipulation, technology you thought was centuries beyond human capability. They'll be able to restart their systems in about 6 hours, which should give them plenty of time to plot a course home. The implications hit Zixtal like a gravitational wave. If humans could disable an entire fleet without firing a shot, if they had been hiding their true capabilities all this time, what are your demands? He found himself asking. Chen shook her head. You still don't understand. We're not here to make demands. We're here to inform you of what's already happened. As of this moment, humanity is withdrawing from the Confederation. All known human settlements will appear to shut down. All human ships will appear to return to Earth. And then, her smile returned, colder than before. Then we'll simply continue living in the galaxy we've actually built, while you deal with the consequences of a universe where humanity is no longer pretending to be what you thought we were. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and counselor, those trade routes you think are secure, the ones that just happen to pass through what you think is empty space, you might want to start plotting new courses. We'd hate for any of your ships to stumble into something unexpected. As the human delegation departed, Zixtal stared at the star map still hovering in the chamber. Those points of light, thousands of them, scattered throughout the galaxy, continued their steady pulse. Like a heartbeat, he realized. Like the heartbeat of a creature that had been sleeping all this time, and was finally, terrifyingly, waking up. The breaking point had been reached. But Zixtal was beginning to understand that it wasn't humanity that had been broken. It was the Confederation's illusion of control that had shattered. And in the wreckage of that illusion, a new reality was emerging, one where humanity had never been the student, but rather the teacher, patiently waiting for the galaxy to realize its mistake. Silent thunder. Admiral Kenna Blackwood stood at the observation deck of the HMS Prometheus, watching as the massive vessel slipped silently through what the Confederation had always considered empty space. Around her, hundreds of other ships emerged from their quantum shrouds, becoming visible for the first time in decades. The sight would have been spectacular if anyone had been around to see it. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm despite the historic nature of the moment. Her XO, Commander Marcus Rivera, consulted his neural interface. All Ghost Fleet vessels reporting in. Quantum shrouds disengaging according to schedule. The Confederation's long-range sensors will detect us in approximately 3 minutes. Blackwood nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. "And how are our friends at the Arcturus monitoring station handling the show?" "Their energy signatures suggest they're running every scanning protocol they have. Multiple emergency transmissions detected." Rivera paused, amusement clear in his voice. "They appear to be having trouble believing their instruments." "I imagine they are." Blackwood turned from the viewport, her uniform shifting colors to match the ambient lighting. Another piece of technology humanity had kept to themselves. What about the civilian side? Operation Exodus is proceeding as planned. All visible human settlements are being evacuated, while our ghost colonies continue normal operations under full quantum shrouding. The Confederation's economic networks are already showing signs of stress. The Admiral made her way to the command center, where a holographic display showed the true extent of human space, not the small cluster of systems the Confederation had permitted them, but the vast network they had built in secret. Thousands of colonies, research stations, and industrial complexes, all hidden behind technology that the aliens had dismissed as theoretical. "Message from Dr. Chen," Rivera announced. "The Confederation Council is in emergency session. Apparently, several member species are demanding immediate military action." Blackwood actually laughed at that. "Are they now? And how do they plan to fight an enemy they can't find? Using ships we can shut down with a thought." "They don't know that the fleet shutdown was just a demonstration," Rivera pointed out. "Our actual capabilities are still." "And they'll stay that way," Blackwood cut in firmly. The quantum field manipulation was a warning shot. "Let them wonder what else we can do." A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The holographic display shifted to show Captain Alina Santos of the HSS Hyperion, one of their deep space installations. "Admiral, we're tracking multiple Confederation scout ships, attempting to map the quantum distortions from our ghost colonies. Should we adjust our shroud frequencies?" "No need, Captain. Let them detect the edges of our territory. It's time they understood just how much of their empty space isn't empty at all." Blackwood's expression turned thoughtful. "Any word from the Meridian Project?" Santos nodded, her image flickering slightly as it passed through layers of quantum encryption. Dr. Patel reports all systems nominal. The network is ready whenever you give the word. The Meridian Project. Even among humans, few knew its true scope. While the Confederation had focused on restricting humanity's physical expansion, they had completely missed the vast network of quantum-entangled gates humanity had been building. Not just for transportation, but for energy transfer, communication, and things the aliens hadn't even conceived of yet. Admiral, Rivera interrupted. We're picking up some interesting chatter from the Confederation channels. It seems several of their major trading houses are on the verge of collapse. Apparently, they're just now realizing how many of their independent shipping companies were actually human-operated entities under quantum camouflage. Blackwood returned to the viewport, watching as more ships of the Ghost Fleet revealed themselves. Each vessel represented years of secret development, generations of human ingenuity hidden behind a mask of compliance. The Confederation had expected humanity to beg for scraps of technology, never realizing that humans had surpassed them decades ago. Send word to all fleet elements, she ordered. Maintain current positions but do not engage. If any Confederation vessels approach, execute standard avoidance protocols. We're not here to fight. She paused, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. We're here to show them what they should have seen all along. As if in response to her words, another wave of ships shimmered into visibility, their quantum shrouds falling away like morning mist. On countless worlds throughout the galaxy, hidden human settlements continued their work, no longer bothering to maintain the illusion of primitive technology that had fooled the Confederation for so long. Message from Earth Central, Rivera reported. Operation Silent Thunder is officially underway. All sectors reporting ready for Phase 2. Blackwood nodded, her eyes fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. The Confederation had spent centuries trying to contain humanity, never realizing they were attempting to bottle a storm. Now the storm was breaking, not with violence or conquest, but with the quiet revelation of power that had always been there. You know what the truly ironic part is, Marcus? She asked softly. We would have shared everything. The quantum technology, the hyperspace gates, all of it. All they had to do was treat us as equals. Their loss, Rivera replied simply. No, Blackwood corrected, watching as another cluster of ships emerged from quantum shrouding. Their wake-up call. Let's see if they're finally ready to listen. The awakening. First Merchant Prince Vexlor of the Arcturian Trade Consortium stared at the financial projections with all three of his hearts pounding in synchronized dread. The holographic displays surrounding his office showed market crashes cascading across every major trading hub in Confederation space. But it wasn't the crashes themselves that terrified him. It was the pattern they revealed. Impossible, he whispered, his crystalline fingers tracing the flow of data. They were everywhere. His senior analyst, Ptolemy, flickered into existence beside him, her holographic form tight with stress. The deeper we dig, my lord, the worse it gets. Those independent shipping companies that disappeared last week, all human-controlled. The local manufacturing centers that went dark, human-operated. Even the quantum processing networks we relied on for market predictions, human technology, hidden behind shell corporations and proxy owners. Vexlor sank into his gravity couch, feeling every one of his 200 years. How did we not see it? Because they didn't want us to. A new voice answered. Dr. Naira Kavol, the consortium's head of sinological studies, entered the office. Her typical academic calm was shattered, replaced by a feverish excitement that made her bioluminescent patterns pulse erratically. I've been reviewing our entire history of human interaction. It's remarkable. She waved her tendril over the desk, bringing up centuries of historical data. Look at their pattern of technology sharing. Every advance they showed us was carefully calculated. It revealed just enough to seem cooperative, but always held back the crucial elements. We thought we were seeing their best efforts. In reality, we were seeing their carefully constructed facade. But our monitoring systems, Ptolemy began. We're only detecting what humans allowed them to detect. Cavall interrupted. I've analyzed the quantum signature of their ghost colonies. The technology it's beyond anything we thought possible. They weren't just hiding their installations. They were bending space-time itself to create pocket dimensions where they could operate unseen. Vexilor's third heart skipped a beat. The empty zones, he whispered. Cavall nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Those regions of space we dismissed as uninhabitable due to quantum instabilities. They weren't natural phenomena. They were human industrial centers, hidden behind technology we couldn't even conceive of. A priority alert flashed across Vexilor's neural interface. More market crashes, more systems going dark. But now he saw the true pattern. It wasn't chaos, it was choreography. Humanity wasn't just withdrawing. They were systematically revealing how deeply they had integrated themselves into the galactic economy. New data from the Orient sector. Ptolemy reported, her holographic form flickering with agitation. Remember that primitive human mining operation we shut down last year? Turns out it was a front. They've just revealed a massive automated manufacturing complex hidden in a pocket dimension right next to it. Our entire supply of quantum crystals. They were letting us think we were their only source. Cavall's patterns pulsed with academic fervor. Don't you see? This was never about technology or resources. It was about psychology. They studied us, learned our prejudices, our assumptions about younger species. Then they used those assumptions against us. We saw what we expected to see, a struggling young species grateful for our guidance. While they built an entire civilization right under our sensors, Vexilor finished, feeling sick. But why reveal it now? Why not continue to operate in secret? Because they're not just revealing their power, Cavall said softly. They're revealing our dependence on them. Look at the market crashes. They're not random. They're systematically demonstrating how much of our economy relied on their hidden infrastructure. A new alert caught Vexilor's attention, this one from the Confederation Science Council. His neural interface translated the complex technical data into something his business-oriented mind could grasp. What he saw made his carapace pale. They've just revealed something called the Meridian Network, he said, voice barely a whisper. A vast web of quantum-entangled gates spanning the entire galaxy. They weren't just hiding in empty space. They were using it as an express lane, while we plodded along our conventional trade routes. And now they're offering access to it, Ptolemy added, scanning the data. At a price. Vexilor laughed bitterly. Equality. Real equality this time, not the patronizing version we offered them. He stood, moving to the window that overlooked the consortium's mighty trading fleet. Ships sat idle in their docks, their quantum cores dependent on human-designed processors that no longer functioned. Send word to the other merchant princes, he ordered, and to the Confederation Council. Tell them. He paused, mandibles clicking in agitation. Tell them that the first merchant prince of the Arcturian Trade Consortium formally recommends immediate acceptance of humanity's terms, before we discover what else they've been hiding all these years. As his officers rushed to comply, Vexilor remained at the window, watching his mighty fleet sit helpless in port. Somewhere out there, invisible to his best sensors, human ships were flying through quantum gates, carrying on their business as if nothing had changed. Because for them, nothing had. They had always been this powerful, this advanced. They had just finally grown tired of pretending otherwise. Reverberations. High Chancellor Trelksan of the Confederation Security Council watched the emergency session descend into chaos. Representatives from 24 species shouted over each other, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the cascade of accusations, demands, and fears. The humans must be contained, bellowed the Rigelian ambassador, his crystalline form vibrating with anger. We cannot allow this deception to go unpunished. Contain them. The Syrian representative's laugh was bitter. With what fleet? Half our ships are sitting dead in space, and the other half can't even find them. Trelksan raised his ceremonial staff, sending a pulse of energy through the chamber that temporarily dampened all sound. In the sudden silence, he spoke with carefully measured words. The Security Council has reviewed all available data on the current situation. Our findings are troubling. He gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. This is what we thought human-controlled space looked like. A small cluster of systems appeared, barely a fraction of the galaxy. And this. The display shifted, overlaying quantum detection data from the past week. Thousands of points of light blazed into existence, forming an intricate web that spanned nearly a third of known space. Impossible, someone shouted. Those regions were surveyed. They were empty. They were never empty, a new voice said quietly. All heads turned to Dr. Lavore, the Council's chief xenotechnologist. The usually reserved scientist looked haggard, their scales dulled from days without rest. "We've finished analyzing the quantum signatures from their revealed installations. The humans weren't just hiding in empty space. They were creating it." Lavore manipulated the display, zooming in on one of the supposedly empty regions. "Look at these energy patterns. They weren't using cloaking technology as we understand it. They were literally folding space-time, creating pocket dimensions where they could build entire civilizations unseen. The quantum instabilities we detected in these regions, those were bleed-through effects from their industrial operations. But our monitoring systems, the Rigelian began, were based on principles they gave us." Lavore cut in. "Don't you understand? Every piece of quantum detection technology we've developed in the past century was built on theoretical frameworks that humans shared. They weren't just hiding. They were teaching us to look in the wrong places." The chamber erupted again, but this time with a different tone. Fear had replaced anger. Trelkson could feel the shift in the room as the implications sank in. "There's more," he said heavily. "The Council has received reports from our deep space research stations. The humans didn't just hide their colonies. They've been conducting experiments and research on a scale we never imagined. The Meridian network they revealed, it's just the surface. We're detecting quantum entanglement patterns that suggest they've been exploring parallel dimensions, manipulating fundamental forces we barely understand. Why?" The question came from the Andromedan observer, their plasma form flickering with confusion. "Why maintain this deception for so long?" "Because we gave them no choice." The words came from Ambassador Krell of the Diplomatic Corps, who had been silent until now. "Think about our first contact protocols, our integration procedures. We approach every new species with the assumption that they need our guidance, our protection. We never considered that they might surpass us," Lavore finished. "While we were congratulating ourselves on guiding a young species, they were building technologies that made our best efforts look primitive." A priority alert flashed across the chamber's information network. The Syrian representative, whose species specialized in data analysis, read it first. Their color shifted to deep indigo, a sign of profound shock. "The humans have just revealed another layer of their operations," they announced, voice trembling. "Those cultural exchange programs they were so enthusiastic about. They weren't learning from us. They were studying us. Every human student, every cultural attaché, every eager-to-learn diplomat. They were conducting the most comprehensive xenological study in history." Trelkson felt a chill run through his neural pathways. "Studying us for what purpose?" "To understand how to hide from us," Ambassador Krell said softly. "They learned our thought patterns, our technological assumptions, our cultural blind spots. Then they built an entire civilization in those blind spots, knowing we would never think to look there." The chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. They had thought themselves teachers, guides, benevolent overseers of a younger species. Instead, they had been test subjects in a centuries-long experiment in psychological manipulation. "The human representative requests an audience," an aide announced suddenly. Trelkson looked around the chamber, at the faces of the most powerful beings in known space, all shaken by the revelation of how thoroughly they had been outmaneuvered. Put them through, he ordered. As the human hologram materialized in the center of the chamber, Trelkson couldn't help but wonder, what else were they hiding? And more importantly, what would they reveal next? New dawn. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her private quarters aboard the HSS Prometheus, watching the real-time holographic display of galactic events unfold around her. Thousands of data points flowed through the quantum-entangled network, showing the cascade of revelations spreading across Confederation space. After centuries of hiding, humanity's true face was finally emerging from the shadows. Final status report, she requested, her voice calm despite the historic nature of the moment. Her AI assistant, AI, manifested as a subtle pattern of light in the air. Phase 5 is proceeding as planned. The Confederation Security Council has been in emergency session for 72 hours straight. Economic disruption has reached predicted levels. Military response capabilities are effectively neutralized through quantum field manipulation. Chen nodded, watching as another cluster of human installations shimmered into visibility, their quantum shrouds falling away like morning mist. And the Meridian Project. All gates are operational and visible to Confederation sensors. Their scientists are quite distressed by the implications. There was a hint of amusement in Aria's voice, particularly the revelation that humans have been using dimensional folding for routine cargo transport, while they were still theorizing about its possibility. A priority communication request flashed across Chen's neural interface. Supreme Counselor Zixtal. She allowed herself a small smile before accepting the call. The alien leader's holographic form materialized, looking significantly more worn than during their last encounter. Dr. Chen, the Confederation Council has reviewed your terms. Terms? Chen raised an eyebrow. I don't recall offering any terms, Counselor. I simply informed you of reality. The reality that humanity has been operating a parallel civilization within our territory. There was a mixture of anger and respect in Zixtal's voice. That you've been manipulating our economy, our technology, our very understanding of space-time. Your territory. Chen's laugh was gentle but carried an edge. Counselor, one of the first things humanity learned about space was that it belongs to no one. You claimed vast regions as your domain simply because you couldn't detect anyone using them. We simply made use of the space you didn't know how to see. She gestured, and the holographic display expanded to show the true extent of human activity. The vast network of quantum gates, the dimensional folds containing entire industrial complexes, the ghost colonies that had been thriving unseen for generations. We never wanted dominion, Counselor. We wanted partnership. But you and your predecessors were so convinced of your superiority that you forced us to build our own path. And now, she smiled, now you're beginning to understand just how much you depend on the infrastructure we built while you weren't looking. Zixtal's secondary arms twitched, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The Council is prepared to recognize humanity's autonomy and technological achievements. We can negotiate new treaties. No. Chen cut him off firmly. No more treaties. No more negotiations where you dictate terms from a position of imagined superiority. Instead, we offer something simpler. The truth. She waved her hand, and data began flowing into the Confederation's networks. The full technical specifications of human quantum technology, the principles behind dimensional folding, the true capabilities of their civilization. We're not revealing this to impress you or to threaten you, Chen explained. We're revealing it because it's time for the galaxy to move forward. Together, as equals. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Meridian network doesn't have to be just ours. The dimensional engineering that lets us create space where none existed. It could solve your species' territorial disputes. Our quantum field manipulation technology. It could revolutionize your power generation systems. Understanding dawned in Zixtal's compound eyes. This was never about revenge. Of course not. Chen's expression softened. This was about evolution. Your civilization had stagnated, Counselor. You were so busy maintaining your position of authority that you stopped pushing boundaries, stopped exploring possibilities, stopped growing. She gestured to the display showing the galaxy in its true form, not the neat, ordered territories of the Confederation, but a complex web of overlapping civilizations, hidden dimensions, and quantum connections. "This is what the galaxy really looks like," she said softly. "Messy, interconnected, full of possibilities that don't fit into neat administrative categories. Humanity didn't build a parallel civilization just to hide from you. We built it to show you what's possible when you stop limiting yourself to what you think you know." A new alert flashed across her interface. Around the galaxy, human installations were fully decloaking, their true forms becoming visible to all. But unlike the military revelations of the previous days, these were different. Research stations, cultural centers, places of learning and collaboration that had been operating in secret, waiting for the moment when they could open their doors to all species. "The choice is yours, Counselor," Chen concluded. "You can cling to your old hierarchies and watch them crumble, or you can join us in building something new, something better. A galactic civilization where innovation isn't controlled by committees, where progress isn't limited by tradition, and where every species, whether they've been spacefaring for 1,000,000 years or 1,000, has something valuable to contribute." Zixtal was silent for a long moment, his compound eyes taking in the true map of the galaxy, the one humanity had known all along. Finally, he spoke. "The Council will need time to process all of this." Chen smiled. "Take all the time you need, Counselor. We've been patient for centuries. We can wait a little longer for you to understand that this isn't an ending." She looked out at the stars, where human ships were now freely traversing their quantum gates, no longer hiding their true capabilities. "It's a beginning." As Zixtal's hologram faded, Chen turned to the galaxy map one more time. The quantum shrouds were falling away everywhere now, revealing humanity's true face to the cosmos. But it wasn't a face of conquest or dominion. It was the face of a species that had learned to thrive in the shadows until the light was ready for them. The dawn of a new era had arrived. And this time, everyone would face it together.